Oh, another day. I don't know what to say for this intro. Welcome to the YouTube page of a broke booktuber talking about the best books. But we're talking about why books, what all of you think of it. I will be discussing your input and then I will be discussing my ideas towards the end. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into this.
Yeah, baby! That's what I've been waiting for!
So, our first comment today comes from another Ben, this person with the Mr. Incredibles profile picture. I love this comment because he says, or she says, I'm not sure, many cases in writing, you can tell when an author is heavy-handedly pandering. Books that have that are not good, and YA suffers from pandering a lot. I really love this comment because a lot of people have expressed how YA books specifically are full of just the same things that have sort of come to characterize the genre. Well, it's not a genre, it's an age group, but whatever. Let's call it genre for this particular video, okay? Now, YA initially was not so large. It was actually a lot smaller, but they kept expanding it and expanded it and expanded it to a point where the age group, the genre, swallowed a lot of different things and it ballooned in size. And so it became extremely marketable because you could literally put your book in a lot of places if you had the label YA. And so a lot of authors, in order to be marketable and to have marketable books and sell more copies, have started pandering to YA audiences. And I do think this is made worse by one particular thing, which is publishers, because publishers a lot of the time or lately seem to be forcing YA standards or at least YA cliches into books that did not have them. Sometimes I've heard severe cases where a writer initially intended their characters like to be 30 or late 20s and the age was dropped to like 15, 17, 16, 18, primarily because the publishers told them you just have to have a younger protagonist or something like that. Otherwise, it cannot be YA, right? This is what it has literally come down to. And I do think it's really negative because it is doing something that we will comment on this, but what I think it's doing, this particular obsession with the cliches of the genre and perpetuating them, and the fact that this genre has ballooned and swallowed so much and it has become very marketable. This results in the genre really being stagnant because now people are being forced into the genre. And I'm ranting a lot in here, but I honestly think this is just awful, and I think it limits the potential of the genre. Even this comment links to a second comment, which is from Gabby B. She says, YA has the potential to be great. I hate it when a book presents all teenagers as dumb and self-centered. YA should be all about discovering who you are in the world and what you want to be. I think it should empower young people. This plus the portrayal of toxic relationships as okay. Pablo, I think, replied to this one. This guy is a replying god. I loved his replies. And so being a teenager, he says, is all about experiencing new things, coming to terms with who you are and what you do about it. It should be a discovery journey, exploring nerve-ending possibilities, falling on your face and getting back up. I totally agree with you. And can I be the third person to agree? But I do agree with them for a very specific reason that connects to the first one. And because in the first tweet or reply, we discussed and established that YA is very broad and there are a lot of books in this genre, right? This means when a book like Twilight succeeds, it becomes basically the face of the genre. But you see, as Gabby says, the YA genre has a lot of potential. And this means a lot of books end up having nothing to do with any of the things that Twilight, for instance, or Hunger Games is trying to explore. Very few books actually have, within this genre, have something to do with these famous books. But anything that is in these books has to be in a lot of other books. And if it's not, it is forced in. What this does is that it has a runover effect. It has a runover effect because a lot of authors who are not interested in exploring, let's say, dystopian or anything that it relates to it, or the toxic relationships, end up being forced in doing those things if they want to be marketable, at least maybe hop on a trend. And this is awful. This is something I have noticed. This is something I've discussed with my friends, because one of my friends actually said, dude, I have to have a romance in my YA book if it is to be published as YA. I didn't know that. And he was surprised. And I was surprised as well. And I was like, maybe you should try to pressure them. Make sure that, they let you publish your book without any romance, because he didn't want to include any romance. He didn't find it interesting. And his characters, they had platonic relationships. Basically, they had, neutral relationships where they were friends. It had nothing to do with, boning each other. That's a weird way to put it, but what if that's... Anyway, moving on. And because the YA label is so large, it ends up hindering so many different books. And this is why I think the YA genre, despite having a lot of potential, hinders itself, or at least, successful books within it hinder every other book. That's a weird way to explore this particular topic, but I think that's how I've explored it always, because, as a writer, I always look at it in that particular way. I don't want to include romance, but I have to include this shit, because guess what? Every other super famous YA book has this. So if I have to, you know the drill, get it done, have your characters smash each other.
Left up. Let's have a little sex.
Yes. So, Edri, by the way, thank you so much for being so interactive, because she has replied to one of my, first videos, and I loved her reply. I, discussed it in my videos. So this is the second time. The first time a person has made it twice into the video, her and Alexander. This is awesome. She says something I agree with wholeheartedly. The world building, for instance, she says, compared to adult fantasy, there is a lot of creativity, diversity, and originality in YA worlds. I agree. But unfortunately, many of them fall apart given their own rules. If X people had Y magic during that war, how did they manage to lose and become subjugated? Precisely. This is really a very, very important statement. If people have magic, there will be two things, right? There will be two things. One of them is very likely, and the other one is really not very likely. And what will happen in the first scenario is that the people who have magic rule the world. That is most likely. So for instance, there is this example I love so much from Twilight. Alice is one of the vampires, one of the Cullens, and she can see flashes of the future, right? Putting the fact that someone in the story can see the future, making an author lazy. I hate when characters can see the future, because it really makes authors super lazy. But putting that aside, either she is going to rule the world, or the world is going to destroy itself, trying to have her on their side. So for instance, either she's gonna be the king of the world, or the Americans and the Chinese and the Russians are going to be at war with each other for this literal fucking super weapon, because she can do something that no technology will ever be able to do. She can see flashes of the future, and rarely is she wrong. Most of the time, she's probably right. And if you give a super AI or a very clever, old man or old group of people, this particular information she gives them, flashes of the future, they can literally make up everything else, because they have so much experience. In other words, Alice would either run the world, or the world would destroy itself trying to have her on their side. Another thing I've noticed in Twilight, for instance, is the world, the vampires are a secret. But you see, there is a slight problem with that. The vampires are a decentralized group of people. How are they a secret? Because the CIA can manage to keep a secret due to the fact that it is a closed system. You can't have a closed system with vampires. One of them is going to get drunk, go somewhere, maybe ravage and kill, people in the bar. Or one of them is going to just tell the other someone else. The list just continues, right? Even in the Hunger Games, you will still find a lot of flaws with the world. For instance, fact, the greatest enemy the capital has are not revolutionaries or the starving people around it. It's actually the capital itself, because god damn, like in the Hunger Games there are children literally being murdered. How is it that no one in the capital, people who are well fed and have power, do not revolt? For instance, we humans kill few, well, we don't kill few, we kill few billions of pigs and animals every week or 2 weeks. We have animal rights activists. Half of the capital would literally disavow. No. Not half of the capital. Like a minority of the capital, the very, very powerful people who are at the top, would actually allow it. Everyone else in the capital would disavow it. But you see, the people in the capital have power. They have influence. They're well fed. At least they are well fed, right? Even if they don't have influence or power, they are well fed. And this means they can start revolts, right? Like, it's literally recruitment material for revolutionaries. The Hunger Games is literally a showcase of what is wrong with the capital and why we need to get rid of it, right? And so it's dumb, like a lot, and it's even used as a reminder that the capital has beaten them. There are so many ways you can remind them. You can build statues of the people who have built the capital. A game where you kill children, that is providing recruitment material to the enemy. And then the capital itself would eat itself from the inside. And so the whole world is just unfunctional. I hate a lot of the ways that young adult worlds, despite being unique, are executed, because they are executed awfully. Now let's talk about the honorable mentions, because there were so many small nuggets that were mentioned by Bibble that were so concise and so perfect that I had to just include them here. Monica says that every book has the same theme. Yep, every book, every YA book literally explores 1 or 2 or 3 themes. Arson B says too many shape-shifting stories. Yes. Oh my goodness. So many magic systems in YA books revolve around shape-shifting. Shape-shifting is a tiny aspect of magic out there. How is it a good chunk of magic systems that are in place? Oh my goodness. I'm just gonna stop because R&B just puts it perfectly. EJ Norris says, I'm not always fond of the constantly rebellious teen versus adult teen, and there can be a lot of generic side characters. Yes. I'm also beginning to get tired of the fact that a lot of YA books explore, like, we have to take out the government that is, a very contrived, weird government. A very stupid government. Like, a government that makes no sense and no functioning adult would ever make. A government that exists so that literal stupid teenagers can destroy it. When have teenagers banded together in the real world and defeated anything that is as large as a freaking kingdom or empire? Oh my goodness, I don't even want to talk about it. Dead barons. Yeah, dead barons. That is love triangles. Clint says when it's YA, but they are more articulate and emotionally attuned than 98% of the adult universe. Again, I think this might have to do with the fact that a lot of authors write 25, 22, basically people in the 20s or maybe early 30s, and then they just downgrade them to like 17, 18. Yeah. And now here comes my particular gripes with YA. I do have a lot of gripes, but a lot of them have already been mentioned. A lot of them have already been explored. There is one of them that has not been explored, and there is one of them that I have found 2-3 people have mentioned it. It is Monica, She says that every book has to explore the same theme. I have never seen a genre that has such a limited theme range in my entire life. There is no another genre that has as limited of a theme range. I'm not sure if that is a particular phrase I've ever said before, but the range of the themes that are displayed in the genre, YA takes the trophy for being the most repetitive and hammering of all of them. Because the two themes that are explored in YA books are often, not always, but oftentimes, the power of friendship and loyalty, as well as the main big one, which is coming of age. But I want to say this, right? Because power and corruption are two themes that are conjoined, and you can explore those two themes, and you don't really have to always explore the same things. Power and corruption, they are not very relevant for teenagers. I understand that. However, this is the most distant one, right? I want to get it out of the way at first, right? I do have other themes, right? Death, for instance. A lot of people, when they're teenagers, it is the first time in their life when they come across the concept of death, because you have either been alive long enough to see someone die, or to hear about someone important in your life that you have had deep connections with die, or you yourself come very close to dying, and this can be jarring. Another theme that can link to this particular dying one is cowardice. Precisely, you become a coward when you almost die. It is true. And then you can explore this further. You can really explore this. You can go from death to cowardice and then to heroism, right? So the person comes close to dying, then they are no longer brave. They don't want to take chances with their life anymore. And then they come back after they lose maybe someone important because they were a coward. They come back and they resurface as a hero and they save the day. This is something I have never seen in YA. I have literally never seen this in YA. Is it too hard? Is it too harsh? Is it too dark? Another theme that can be explored is prejudice, right? Prejudice, like for instance, a famous book that does this and is YA is The Hate You Give. It is a flawless book. The prose is, I'm not reviewing the book. I'm not going to spoil anything about it. But yeah, it does explore the concept of prejudice in a way that YA audiences will find very nice and very relatable. So I do think that, prejudice and racism is very important, especially for instance in today's world where teenagers are literally connecting with other people across the world every day, all day. And so the concept of interacting with other groups of people who may not look like you, who may not talk the same language that you do, or even if they speak the same language, they don't think the same way that you do, becomes very important. And so to explore prejudice and racism and, fear of the other, right? Fear of the unknown, it can really be very interesting. It can be very educational, and it can also result in very complex characters. And so you see, this is just very simple. These themes are not complicated, but you see, few books in the YA genre have become so successful that they have literally hijacked, and they have kidnapped the whole fucking genre. Now you have to either be those books or hit the window. Basically, jump out of the window. Not hit the window, but jump out of the window. Yeah. And I think the YA genre is a very interesting genre to conclude. However, because of how very encompassing and large it is, that particular trait, the scale, ends up biting the YA genre back and ends up limiting it. Because 1 book, 2 books, 3 books, 5 books successful, boom. Everything else is awful for years and years and years. So yeah, that is the video. I hope you enjoyed. I definitely enjoyed blabbering for like 20, 30, 40 minutes. I don't know how long it has been. It's almost getting dark. So yeah, God bless you. Thank you for watching. If you have reached so far, you are awesome. You are awesome. Thank you and bye-bye.